Thank you for joining us here today for our webinar on the scientific benefits of meditation. Today, to give you an outline of what we'll be talking about, I'm going to introduce myself, then we'll talk about what meditation is, very briefly, and then we'll dive into the scientific studies that show all of the health benefits of meditation on the body. And then I'll talk about how we can develop that practice ourselves and what resources and supports there are for you to develop your own practice of meditation. At the end, we'll have some time for questions and answers. So we'll be able to ask questions through the chat at the end. All right, let's begin. So welcome again. My name is Shivani Dayal. I grew up here in the Bay Area, California, and I have a bachelor's degree in neuroscience, which is the study of the brain. So some of what I'll be talking about today is meditation's effect on the brain. I also have a master's in public health, which is the study of health at a population level and determining what is best for community health as a whole. I've been a student of the BRAHMAKUMARIS for over 20 years here in the Bay Area. And within the BRAHMAKUMARIS, my role is as a United Nations youth representative. So the BRAHMAKUMARIS is an affiliate NGO to the United Nations, which means we conduct workshops and host other events and have an office at the UN in New York. And I help with some of those youth activities as well as other international youth coordination. And I share this background because I think it's important to ground what we're going to be talking about in real experience. And I personally have had a lifetime of benefit from being part of the BRAHMAKUMARIS and learning the tools of Raj Yoga. As many of you know, the culture here in the Bay Area in terms of schooling can be quite intense, and that all of those school admissions processes and exams can be quite stressful to young people. But I found that the tools of meditation have really helped me be able to stay grounded in myself, to stay less stressed than my peers, and to live just a much calmer and more stable life. I've even felt it impact on exams, whether it's not knowing the answer to a question and then just taking a few minutes of silence and then all of a sudden the answer will emerge. Or most students, as soon as they're given the exam paper, they'll jump right in. And I tried to establish a habit of taking 30 seconds in the beginning and taking a deep breath and then beginning the exam. And these small little things I really felt have enhanced my learning ability and my memory ability. And I mention these things because later on you'll see how meditation may be changing the brain to be able to be enhancing these factors. Also, undoubtedly, it's benefited my friendships and personal relationships in terms of developing compassion and empathy, being able to often play the one who is the moderator between different friend groups and helping people come to a peaceful resolution. So all of these things, again, have been very real experiences for me throughout my lifetime growing up with this meditation practice, and are something that is part of what motivated me to want to study this further with my neuroscience degree to understand how exactly meditation is having these effects on our bodies. To begin, I wanted to have a disclaimer, which is that meditation is not a replacement for proper medical care. So meditation cannot treat acute illnesses. We still need to be consulting with all of the proper health professionals who can help us, but that meditation can be a very valuable tool to prevent disease and to restore the body in conjunction with these other approaches. And that's what we'll be talking about today, is how it can be used as a tool in relation to other practices as well. So to begin, one simple question: what is meditation? So there are actually many different types. There are mindfulness meditation, yoga meditation, mantra meditation, transcendental meditation, Tai Chi, Raj Yoga, and many, many more. To give a little bit more detail on specifically Raj Yoga meditation, because this is what the BRAHMAKUMARIS teach and is what some of the studies I'll be showing are related to. Raj Yoga meditation is really focused on connecting you to yourself, experiencing yourself as a soul, and connecting to the divine energy or to God. There's a big emphasis on introspection and on cultivating silence within yourself. And it's very simple and accessible to everybody. There's no requirements, there's no mantras, it's very simple and versatile and can be done anywhere in any place. So it's a very simple practice that is quite beautiful. And to give a little context on the research that's been happening, most of the research is actually focused on mindful meditation. So that I gave that long list so that you could see that mindful meditation is just one type of meditation. It originally started with the Buddhist tradition. But since then, since the mid-20th century, it's been adopted by researchers, often psychologists, as they've explored the effects of this meditation, and they've created modules of mindfulness where it's become more secularized. So what it's often called is mindfulness-based stress reduction, MBSR. And this is how they're able to study it in a scientific context where it's not tied to any spiritual philosophy or religious tradition. It is only about the practice of the meditation itself. So that is what most of this research is focused on. There has been what I would consider an explosion of research in this field in the last 2 decades, especially as different scientific technologies become a lot better and allow us to be able to see deeper into the brain and deeper into other parts of the body. It's something that's become more popular. Many of you, I'm sure, have seen how meditation has become quite popular in the West now. And so that is following with where some of the scientific research is going. There are many challenges in researching this topic, though, primarily one, because there are so many types of meditation, and they may be having different effects on different parts of the brain or on the body. So it's important to recognize that that's one of the challenges. Another challenge is just the fact that these are all internal processes that are happening, and so it can be difficult to determine what changes can be attributed directly to meditation or to other practices that that person might be doing. So this problem of attribution can be challenging. However, despite these, there is still a very robust field across many different health topics, which is what we're going to be discussing today. So what exactly does the evidence say? Well, it's pretty conclusive that there are widespread beneficial effects on many, many parts of the body. So the ones that I'm going to be talking about today are about 6 key areas. On the meditation's impact on the cardiovascular system, on hypertension, the immune system, addiction, mental health, and cognitive abilities. However, there are many other studies that are out there that are showing effects in many other different parts of the health field. I also want to note that I will be presenting 1 or 2 key studies in each one of these areas, and that the citations will be provided at the end. If any of you want to read the studies further, you can take a screenshot of that page at the end as well that has the name of them. I'm also going into this assuming that I'm talking to somebody who's not a scientist. So I'm sure we have some scientists who are joining with us here today, so welcome. I'm going to be providing a high-level overview to be able to just highlight some of these key themes. So let's begin. So for cardiovascular health, there was a study that was actually conducted in a hospital operated by the BRAHMAKUMARIS in India, where they created this special program for people who have moderate to severe coronary artery disease. For anybody who doesn't know, coronary artery disease is what you can see over here in the corner, where a healthy artery on the heart is very open, and this is what is allowing blood flow to be able to enter in, to be able to flow through the heart. However, over time, with age and with diet, plaque starts to build up and it starts blocking some of those walls. And eventually you can see in the bottom that it's really constricting the blood flow to the heart, and this can lead to many other health problems, including heart attacks. And so patients were with moderate to severe coronary artery disease were given a low-fat, high-fiber vegetarian diet, moderate exercise, and stress management through specifically Raj Yoga meditation. And they followed these patients for many months, and what they found was that the patients who had the most adherence, so they followed the program the most closely, that their cardiac ability improved. And so how they measured that was the diameter of the stenosis, which means that how clogged this artery is. So you can see here the specific number of about 18 percentage points of how much this, this diameter improved. And cardiac events, meaning were also less common in the most adherent group over 6 years. So over the course of 6 years, those who followed the diet, the exercise, and the meditation practice showed many healthy changes in both metabolic and in psychological parameters. One important feature that the researchers noted, however, was that people really had to adhere to this program 50% or more, and that was essential to achieving any significant change. So you have to be following the diet, exercise, and meditation at least 50% of the way in order to achieve these results. So although that study was not focused solely on meditation, what it's really emphasizing is that in combination with other lifestyle habits, that it can really have a positive effect on the body. Similarly, we see that with hypertension, where this study was showing that meditation reduces blood pressure in patients with hypertension, which is clinically high blood pressure. Hypertension, or this high blood pressure, can have many different negative effects on the body, which you see in this picture right here. It can be a risk factor for heart failure, heart attack, kidney disease, vision loss, and many other things. And so what this study was doing is they did what's called a randomized control trial. What that means is that they take a population and they essentially have two groups within that population. One is going to receive what is the intervention. So in this case, that is the meditation. And the other group is going to be the control. That means that they're going to be the baseline with which we're going to compare the effects. So we always need to have a baseline in order to know whether the changes that we're seeing can actually be attributed to the meditation intervention or whether they would have happened just by chance. So what they designed was this randomized control trial on the impact of meditation on anxiety, stress, and depression levels in patients with hypertension. And the people who they were studying were people who had been diagnosed with high to normal BP or grade 1 hypertension. And what the intervention actually was a mindfulness training for 2 hours per week for 8 weeks. And the control, meaning the comparison group, they got health education talks for the same amount of time. So it wasn't focused on meditation, it was just focused on general health education. After 8 weeks, they found that the intervention group, the meditation group, had statistically lower systolic and diastolic blood pressure, and that effect was largely maintained at a 20-week follow-up. So even after the 8 weeks of training had been done, at 20 weeks, these effects were still largely there. They also found many other benefits, which is that the meditation group, the intervention group, became less judgmental, more accepting, and less depressed. So now to talk about the immune system. So there's this really interesting study that was looking at mindful meditation and its effects in HIV-infected individuals. And this is a great study to be able to look at meditation's improvements on the immune system. So the CD4 T lymphocytes are a certain type of cell, which you can see right here in this image. And they help us, they're a part of our immune system that help fight infections. So what HIV does, HIV is a viral infection where they attack these types of immune cells and they infect them, and you can see here how this CD4 cell is now infected, and it ends up killing those cells. And so HIV patients have to be very concerned about what their CD4 count is, and that over time that CD4 count ends up declining quite drastically and can make them very prone to more infections and more illnesses. So keeping this level as high as possible is very important. So what these researchers did is they did another randomized control trial, which means they had a treatment and a control group. So they had the treatment group take an 8-week mindfulness-based stress reduction meditation program. And if you remember from the beginning, this is one of those modules that psychologists have created that are a secular type of meditation that's used in these types of studies. So they did 8 weeks of that, versus the control group did a one-day control seminar. So they were taught by a health professional about intellectual ways, meaning it was a seminar about how to control your CD4 count and how to try to improve it. And what they found was that the meditation was actually statistically more effective. And what happened was that for those who just did the educational control seminar, their CD4 count still declined, which is not what we want. Whereas in the meditation group, the CD4 count actually stayed the same. So what that means is that somehow, and we don't know the exact mechanisms, but somehow the process of meditation is actually boosting these immune cells and allowing them to fight longer. And that has very widespread implications, not just for HIV individuals, but for anybody, because there are many different immune system disorders that are out there. So research like this is really giving us just the beginning part of an indication into how meditation is really influencing our whole immune systems and our ability to fight off and prevent disease in the future. Another common area of research is on addiction. There are many different types of addictions, each have their own unique research and treatment plans. What this study did, this was looking in about spiritually based meditation. So this was actually a study specifically about Raj Yoga meditation in India, in a clinic, in an addiction clinic. And what they found, so they had, again, this randomized control trial where they had the treatment group take lessons in Raj Yoga meditation, and they had the control group do a relaxation or take the standard treatment in this substance, abstinence. So that's like the standard approach to substance abuse. And what they found was that those who received meditation had better odds of remaining abstinent from their addiction substance than those who were in the treatment or the relaxation groups. So just repeating that again, what that meant was that we're preventing, what they're finding is that the spiritually informed approach of Raj Yoga meditation may offer support to those who are in treatment. And they again made sure to emphasize that meditation may be doing this by reducing the reactivity to distress and dysfunction, which are often the factors that are preceding a relapse in addiction. So what that means is that oftentimes it is high stress situations, other types of emotion dysregulation that can trigger a relapse. It can make somebody once again start drinking, once again start smoking. And that meditation may be operating by helping that person to calm their whole nervous system, by giving them other tools and approaches about what to do and how to control their mind in those cases. And so when it's used as a support, in addition to standard treatment, that it can help prevent this relapse into addiction. One of the other very big fields of research right now is on mental health. Many of you have probably been touched by somebody in your life who has faced mental health issues. Anxiety and depression are one of the most common conditions that are cited by those who are seeking types of therapies like yoga and meditation. And there are many different studies that show different reductions in anxiety and depression in different types of populations. So that's what I'll be presenting on. Again, it's important to note that meditation is not effective on its own in many of these cases, that because depression and anxiety are biological diseases similar to any other, that they also may require other types of treatment and support, but that meditation can be an assistance in that, and can be effective when combined with things like exercise and other lifestyle changes as well. So one study, what they looked at was in medical students, and medical students, as we all can assume, are going to be very stressed out. And what they were looking at was at the cortisol levels. So cortisol is the stress hormone of the body. And what our bodies have this very fine equilibrium called homeostasis that we're always trying to maintain this balance. And cortisol is a hormone that's released under intensities of high stress, and it's supposed to help us save our lives. It's designed to increase your blood pressure, increase your heart rate, do all these things that are part of what we call your fight or flight response. And so this is supposed to help you boost your body so that you can get out of a dangerous situation really quickly. The problem is that nowadays, with the way that we're living, people are living with chronically high levels of stress that are then causing the body to think it's under attack and under threat constantly. And so the body is receiving all of these signals and is then saying, okay, I need to keep producing stress hormone, cortisol, we need to save you. And what that's doing is that excessive levels of cortisol is not what the body wants. And it can even be a neurotoxin, which means that it can even start killing brain cells, too much cortisol. And so what we really want to do is try to just lower these levels of cortisol that are being released by essentially reassuring our body through our mind that we are okay and that it does not need to protect us through this specific mechanism most of the time. So returning back to this study, what they did was they looked at medical students who are going to be stressed, and they did just a 4-day mindfulness training. And they found that these students had significantly reduced levels of blood cortisol. So the amount of cortisol just circulating through their bloodstream was less after just 4 days of mindfulness training than at the beginning. And what this is also showing is that this meditation may be a way to decrease the risk of diseases that arise from stress, like psychiatric disorders. So there are many underlying causes of different mental health issues, but stress can be one risk factor, and high levels of that type of stress can be a trigger for larger psychiatric problems. And so almost as a preventative measure, establishing this practice of keeping our cortisol levels down can really help in both managing mental health in addition to proper treatment and even in maybe preventing it. And up here you can see this diagram that one of the papers was suggesting about how meditation may be affecting our self-regulation by affecting our attention control, our emotion regulation, and our self-awareness. And these are all components that are part of regulating ourselves, keeping ourselves in balance, not just on a spiritual level, but also on a very physiological level, keeping ourselves in tune. And soon we'll talk about what some of those mechanisms in our brain might be to be having this, but this is what the psychology research is showing, is these different types of regulation mechanisms are being activated by meditation, because what you're doing is you're practicing controlling the mind and you're practicing controlling the body just through your thoughts. And so you're better able to regulate all of these different parts of the body. So this is one of my favorite parts because, as I said, I have a degree in neuroscience. So this is on the cognitive benefits. And what this is really starting to show, and this is the really some of the forefront of this new research, is looking at the mechanisms of meditation. So what that means is not just the effect, not just that it lowers blood pressure or that it makes us less stressed or less reactive, but it's actually looking at how. How does it do that? And that is what is really exciting to me and to many other scientists who are out there. And so what we've found is that there are many changes in brain structures that may be underlying a lot of these cognitive benefits that people are experiencing and have been experiencing for many years. So for decades, for hundreds of years, people and Buddhist monks and other people, practitioners of meditation, have reported all of these beneficial effects, such as the stress reduction, the better sleep, better mood, etc. But it was always seen as meditation is just a relaxation tool, but it's more than that. And that's what we're discovering now, is that it's not just about relaxing the body, it's actually about changing the body. So one of these studies, actually there are several studies that are being cited right here. They are, again, are using this 8-week mindfulness-based stress reduction program. And they're comparing that to a control. And what they found was this difference in brain density. And so I'm going to pause for a minute and I'm going to do a 1-minute neuroscience lesson before explaining the results further. So up here in the corner, you can see what a section of what your whole brain looks like. This is the front of your brain, and this is the back of your brain. So what this image is it's taking a cross section of your brain, and then it's turning it so that you can see it. And you can see that there are two different types of matter that are in your brain. It's called gray matter and white matter. So the white matter, very easily you can see, is all of this white part. All of this white part is the connections that are between your neurons in your brain. It's white because of this substance called myelin, which is the insulation that's around all of the neurons. It's basically like insulation on wiring, like on your computer cord that's charging it. That all of those connections are happening here. And the other part is this gray matter, and this gray matter is where the actual cell bodies are. And this is cell bodies are where we can see growth in certain areas of the brain, which is what I'll talk about. Also, just as a housekeeping note, if you're having trouble seeing that image in the corner, you can just click on my image and drag it to a different part of the screen in case you can't see the image. So just repeating that part again in case it had been blocked for any of you, that this gray part right here on this outside, it looks very thin, but it's actually a very crucial part of your brain that provides a lot of the functioning and a lot of the personality to you. And so that is where all of the number of cells are kind of living in that area. Okay, so now jumping back to what the study found. So what they found was that in the people who meditated for 8 weeks, they found an increased gray matter density in the hippocampus. So the hippocampus is right around here, and it's a part of the memory that's involved in learning and memory. And so by finding an increase in gray matter density, what that means is that that area around that learning and memory center has gotten a lot denser and thicker by adding new cells there. So it means that there are new cells, new connections that are happening in that area responsible for learning and memory. And now if you think back to some of the stories I was telling in the very beginning, where me as a student growing up with this practice often had these moments where I was able to learn things faster. I was able to sit in exams and couldn't remember something, but then would just calm my body down and would able to have the answer. That one moment in class when the professor said something was able to just emerge from my mind almost out of the blue. So now we're starting to see maybe how that has been happening is by building up this strength, basically, of the learning and memory center of the brain. They also found increased gray matter in structures associated with self-awareness. So that's about your ability to be aware of your physical body, to be aware of yourself, how you're interacting with the world. So again, we're seeing more cells kind of and more connections being added to those areas. We also saw more gray matter in the frontal cortex. So the frontal cortex in this image is up here. Remember that this is the front part of your brain. Your eyes are up here. So in this frontal cortex, what we're seeing is again, more cells, more connections, and this is the area that's responsible for your working memory, meaning what's going through your mind right now, and the quick things that you're remembering, and your executive decision making. Also, a lot of your personality is up here. So your ability to make sound judgments, to be able to discern things, to be able to have proper control, and to just be able to really think with good judgment power. All of that is really centered in this front part of your brain, and that is being improved by this 8 weeks of meditation. So that, again, really exciting. And one of the things I think is most interesting is that they've also consistently found that the gray matter density has actually decreased in an area of the brain called the amygdala. And this is the part of the brain that's responsible for your stress, for anxiety, oftentimes for anger, for other things like that, because these, again, that's a very important part of your brain. It's been there to try to protect you and to make sure that you can get out of threatening situations. That's part of your brain that's going to be, again, responsible for your cortisol release. That's going to be triggering the rest of the body to say, we're in a stressful situation, we need to release this cortisol. But what we're seeing is that meditation kind of consistently is reducing the activity level and the gray matter density of that area. So you're less likely to be triggered, less likely to become angry, less likely to become stressed and trigger this entire physiological stress response, because we're actually changing it at a brain level. So it's not just relaxing and letting our heart rate slow down. What all of this is doing is you can see that the meditation is actually physically changing structures that are within our brain. And this really relates to this awesome idea in neuroscience called neuroplasticity. And what that refers to is the fact that the brain can change. And this is a relatively new idea within the field, because for many decades, neuroscientists actually thought that once you reached adulthood, your brain essentially stayed the same, that you weren't able to really mold it or change it, or it couldn't really adapt much. But they're finding that that's not true, that there are actually many different instances of parts of the brain that are very, what they call plastic. They can be molded and changed. And some of this research is exactly showing that. It's showing that not only that the brain itself can change, but that we can actually play an active role in changing the brain and then improving our own well-being. And that connection is quite powerful. Along the lines of this same research is about aging, which is this process that everybody goes through in their human physical form. And this idea of building up gray matter density is actually quite important, because it could potentially prevent neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's that really damage the brain by decreasing this gray matter. So in this image here on the left, you can see what a normal healthy brain looks like. Again, this is a slice of the brain. And you can see how thick and robust it looks. And then on the right, you see what an Alzheimer's patient looks like. And you can see how much of this brain has shrunk. These cells have basically literally died. We call it atrophying, that this gray matter is dying off, and quite quickly. So Alzheimer's is a very rapid progression usually of that gray matter dying. But by doing some of these meditation practices, researchers are hypothesizing at this point that maybe, like, by bulking up the brain, sort of like how at a gym you would work out your muscles, by bulking up this brain matter, that we might actually be able to at least stave off for a little bit longer diseases that are going to be affecting the brain like this. So again, this is an instance of it really being a meditation being a prevention tool and a health promotion in the long term. It's also important to note that the cortex, which is this thin outer gray layer right here, shrinks naturally with age. So not just under extreme conditions like Alzheimer's, but just as we all age naturally, that cortex is going to be getting thinner and thinner, which is part of why aging is accompanied with forgetfulness, and our vision starts going worse and all of that, because this brain is changing as it ages, and a lot of these cells are dying. What is amazing is studies that have shown that 50-year-old meditators, so 50-year-olds who have been meditating, had the same amount of gray matter as 25-year-olds. Let that sink in for a minute, and I'll repeat it again. 50-year-old meditators had the same amount, so their brain looked the same on these brain imaging scans as 25-year-olds, people who are half their age, which is just really going to show the fact that that meditation really has this robust impact on almost a full brain scale, which we're still exploring and still figuring out how exactly that works. But what this is showing is that the long-term impacts are really massive. And again, in this case, this is going to be evidence for showing the value of the long-term commitment. Because I can tell you that having an effect like this of the 25-year gap and having the brains look the same, that does not come from 8 weeks of meditation. That comes from many, many years of dedicated meditative practice that's going to be building up the brain capacity and literally building up new brain cells and connections, the same way that going to a gym is building up your muscles. And so, but this is really exciting because it's giving us the opportunity of seeing what the future could look like if you start now. It's not too late if you start now, and really have this vision of long-term health, that we can have results that are as amazing as this. Since, as I mentioned, that there are many different types of meditation practices, this was an interesting study looking at the different types of benefits of different meditation styles. And mainly what they were comparing was about mindfulness practices, which typically require you to sit peacefully in one spot, and it's mainly a mental exercise and mental practice, versus those that are, they called an active-based meditation. So those are those that are going to be like yoga or mantra chanting, things that are like that. They're calling active-based meditations. And they found that both of them had some overlapping effects, but that they had some unique effects by themselves. And so that they found that the mindfulness practice really focused on areas of the brain that were about body awareness, about attention, emotion regulation, and the integration of emotion and sensory processing. So this is, again, just about the sheer power of the mind almost impacting and influencing our emotion regulation, attention, etc. The active-based meditations had beneficial effects in areas like self-control, social cognition, and language and motor functioning. So these are also very important characteristics for us to all build up our capacity in. And so really it's not an either or, we need both of these. We need all of these beneficial effects. And the Raj Yoga meditation does actually do both of these because it is a mindfulness practice, but that then you carry, the whole goal is that you carry that consciousness throughout you with the rest of your day. So as you're doing your dishes, as you're gardening, as you're doing your work, you are having this practice of keeping yourself centered and reminding yourself that you are this energy of light. And so having that awareness, that meditative practice, while you're being active, will really allow you to have the best of both worlds and be able to see changes in all of these different areas of the brain and therefore in your behavior. So hopefully you've been able to see that there is this really deep connection between the mind, the body, and the soul, and that these are really integrated ideas, and that it's not just the body, it's not just the soul, it's not just the soul separate in the body, but that there is this connection that we have, and that the mind has the ability to change the body through many of these mechanisms that we've talked about today. And that there's so much more to learn. There's so much more that's coming out that we are ready and eager to explore, and hopefully this will continue being a big field of research. And once again, just to reemphasize that meditation also has its maximum effects when it's being used in conjunction with other lifestyle changes, like we saw with that cardiology study, that having a vegetarian diet and exercising and many other of these kind of healthy lifestyle things are really what's pushing us beyond into this new beneficial health state. So I encourage you, as you're developing your practice, to also think about how you can integrate that into your many other lifestyle choices and behaviors, because it all will really come together to support you well. Because meditation by itself is not a replacement for medical care. It's not a treatment, but it is a support and an aid and this ability for us to have a profound ability to control our own emotional regulation and have this rippling effect throughout our whole body. So take a deep breath and pause for this moment. We've just gone through this whole list of studies and amazing benefits. And hopefully the question that you're asking yourself now is, how do I achieve these benefits? So I wanted to give basically a summary slide that is gonna give some guidance, which is practice. And what is amazing from what we've just been discussing is that there are noticeable changes in just 8 weeks. That's a really short amount of time to be able to see any lowering in blood pressure, in anxiety levels, and yet that's what people have been seeing. So this is a really short time span that you can start experiencing some of these benefits, but long-term commitment is really what's going to produce those more bigger changes. Like we saw with that 25 to 50-year-old gray matter density, that really comes from long-term commitments. And the same thing with, if you want to keep your blood pressure low, you can't just do it for 8 weeks and then stop, because it's not going to stay the same. So once you make this a habit, it's part of your life now. And that these classes, like what the studies are doing to also clarify on what their requirements were, was that they had a weekly meditation class plus daily meditations. So participants in these studies were meditating for, on average, about 30 minutes a day. So 30 minutes a day for 8 weeks is about how much these participants are meditating to get the effects that they found. And again, as I said, that they're most robust when they're integrated with other lifestyle choices and changes, and that a spiritual philosophy is also very valuable. There are secular-based meditations like the mindfulness meditation, but that other forms of meditation, like the Raj Yoga ones, may have very unique benefits, especially in things, whether it's like addiction or in other fields, because they're really providing a whole worldview for you to look at. It's not just a practice, but it's about accompanied to a spiritual philosophy that can provide some deeper meaning. And like exercise, all of this takes time and experience to build up. And it's important not to be judgmental about ourselves. Don't become discouraged when your mind wanders. Be kind to yourself. Start small. Start 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, and slowly build up that capacity, just like you would in building up your own muscle capacity. And just continuously remember to be patient and kind. There's nobody who can't meditate. It's something that anybody can do. As long as we give ourselves the time and space and gentleness to keep exploring this practice. So now for 30 minutes, we've just been talking very intellectually. I've presented to you a lot of data and numbers, and now it's really time to shift out of our heads and into our bodies and to get to experience that meditation for yourself. So I would like to invite you to take a deep breath, to sit back, get comfortable, and join me for 3 minutes as we go into a nature presentation. Oh, and give me one moment, please. I am connected to the earth and the sky. I am like a peaceful tree with roots stretching deep down into the ground, giving me the strength and stability to face any storm. I am resilient. While my roots go deep, like a tree, I too reach for the sky and transform the infinite light into energy. I provide shade for those around me, nurturing life to keep growing. I am like the water, clean and powerful. My stillness allows me to reflect the world around me. My depth is boundless. There is no beginning or end to me. I will continue to move in a cycle. I am like the wind. I whisper secrets of the universe into the ears of those who will listen. Gentle and firm, I am a quiet force that shapes the environment around me. I breathe life into the air. I am a soul, a spark of energy, bringing light into this world. I see how all living systems are connected, sharing this unique moment in time. Connected. This is how I want to experience my life. Feeling the roots, powerful waves, and gentle wind of my own soul. Welcome back. How do you feel? Take a moment and, if you can, summarize how you're feeling in just one word or one line in the chat box. All right, we're getting peaceful, wonderful, aligned, serene, calm, amazing, free, connected, calm, divine, refreshed, light, centered, beautiful, beautiful. Wow. I'm so glad that these feelings are emerging, and all that took was 3 minutes. That was 3 minutes and you were transported to a different feeling, a different space. Maybe you can feel things in your body start to shift. So that's beautiful. So now the question is, how can we sustain this? And how can we help? So the BRAHMAKUMARIS is a world spiritual organization that's a nonprofit that was founded in India in 1937. We have a global presence in 130 countries with more than 8,000 centers. It's considered to be the largest spiritual organization in the world, led by women, with over 1 million practicing members worldwide. The BRAHMAKUMARIS really focus and have an emphasis on self-transformation leading to world transformation. So that means that we have to take the time and dedicated space to improve ourselves, to emerge our own natural qualities like peace, stability, love, in order to cultivate this consciousness of peace within ourselves, and that is then what's going to change the world. As I introduced in the beginning, the practice that we teach is Raja Yoga meditation, which is about connecting you to your own soul and to the divine energy or God, and that there's this emphasis on introspection and silence being the tools for how we can get to know ourselves better and go on this journey to the self, and that really brings a mental clarity and fosters self-transformation. And again, it's simple and accessible to everybody. Everything is provided for free. There's no requirements, no mantras, nothing you have to memorize. It's a very simple practice to get to know yourself. And to do that, we have a center right here in Silicon Valley that offers free Raja Yoga meditation courses and seminars and webinars like this. We have events all the time, and kids. We have a kids living values session and parenting classes and retreats. And of course, during COVID, we're still very active and everything is online. We have these webinars every week and many other events, which I'll share in a moment. The Silicon Valley Center is led by Sister Kusum Kejriwal, who's the director of the Silicon Valley Center for over 25 years. And we're located in Milpitas. You can have our location and website here, and there are many more resources and information on the Silicon Valley website as well. In terms of upcoming events, we have the Raja Yoga meditation course for beginners that's happening in English that starts today, June 20th at 4 p.m. So it's not too late to register. In the chat, all of the details are being shared for how to register. So look in the chat for the link, and you can start as soon as today for the English class. The Hindi Raja Yoga class starts on July 4th. And here you can see the dates. Each one of them are 4 consecutive weekends. At different timings, so for Hindi, different timings in English. Again, all the details are in the chat for how you can register. You can also check out our YouTube channel for previous webinars and seminars of other events. And our next webinar is on June 27th, next Saturday, at the same time. That's on choosing stillness over illness. Again, you can register in the chat link below. We have living values classes for children every Sunday from 10 to 11, and art of parenting classes for the parents every Sunday from 2 to 3. These are very valuable sessions that are led by parents who know how to discuss all of these different ideas and really provide some practical tips on parenting. We have live daily meditations, and again, as I said, all past webinars and future ones are on our YouTube channel that you can check out as well. I would also like to specially invite you to join our daily live meditation from 7:30 to 8. It's a guided meditation that you don't need any experience. This is a great place to get started, but we're really trying to focus it on supporting the world and healing the world. As we all know, right now is a very intense time. Many people are suffering, and what we can do is really try to send our positive vibrations to help heal that, send out good energy to all of the healthcare workers, everybody working in first response, and really help support through our mind and through our energy. So we'd invite you to join us from 7:30 to 8. It happens every single day, and we would love to have you there. Some other resources I would like to highlight that the Brahmakumaris have developed that can be at the tip of your fingertips. We have the Just a Minute website that has free 1-minute meditations along with other resources, but these are great 1-minute meditation recordings that you can download, you can listen to during your workday if you need just a 60-second break to recenter yourself and get back to that space. We also have the B-Zone app, which is a free app for Apple and Android that has many different resources. It's a very creative design, so we'd encourage you to download that as well. And both of these can just be used in support of the Raj Yoga course. We definitely recommend taking the full meditation course to really learn the practice of it. But once you have, then these can be fun resources just to keep you alive and engaged as you go on this journey. So before going to question and answers, I would like to just take a moment to recenter ourselves. Take a deep breath. Feel the tension being released from your body. Feel the wave of energy rushing over you. Waves and waves of light washing over your head and your shoulders and your legs. I feel myself as a point of light. I feel that point radiating all of my innate qualities of peace, love, happiness, joy. This is who I am. This pure energy. I am powerful. I am resilient. I am perfectly at peace with the world. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, sister. Thank you for such an educational session. It was great. We do have a few questions. I would read that out.
Perfect.
The first question is, how do you work through periods of time where you might not feel in the right mindset to meditate? Maybe you are feeling disconnected from your spiritual self or for some other reason.
Sometimes it helps to have some variety. So if you're feeling disconnected from whatever maybe your normal practice is, if you have a routine, then sometimes whether it's going for a walk through nature, lying down and staring up at the sky, listening to some new music. Sometimes we just need a little bit of newness, something to shake us out of our funk that we're in. So for me, what that usually helps is to try something new, experiment with a new technique or a new aspect of this practice that maybe you haven't done before. And then just to be patient to yourself and to allow yourself that it's okay. We all go through ups and downs, and the important thing is to not give up on yourself or on your own personal spiritual goals, and to just let yourself go on that journey. And as long as you don't because becoming frustrated often makes people just want to give up and stop completely and then not return. So something to keep you connected, something new to try. And the main thing is just to keep that patience and kindness to yourself as you keep going through this journey.
Thank you so much. And as you mentioned, every day we have 7:30 to 8 p.m. live meditation, and we do have it very creative, and every day is based on a new theme. And we also have some meditation resources on our website. So that will be helpful for beginning. Another question is, what if an individual has not been practicing meditation but begins now? Can brain matters be improved, like grow more gray matter cells, less shrinkage?
Yes, I don't know how much research they've done on like whether there's an actual like age limit, but from my understanding of neuroplasticity, I believe that the philosophy would be better late than never, or better ever than never. So I would say it's not too late. That whatever you're doing now is certainly going to, even if it's not going to build up more growth, it might at least prevent further shrinkage. So if you're 50 or 60 and you're starting this journey now, I think it's still very valuable and beneficial, because there's, I think it can still have big effects on that aging process and at least maintaining what you have right now. So I would say absolutely.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we do not have any more open questions. So thank you. We are getting excellent comments from everyone. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us today. We'll take one more 30 seconds of silence just to really leave with that same feeling that we had earlier today. So if you'll join me again, one more deep breath. Let everything else go. You are pure energy. You have the power to face any obstacle. You are fearless. And you are peaceful. Thank you once again for joining us today, and have a very blessed and peaceful day. Om Shanti.